for a guy to basically have a broken collarbone and to be out there playing basketball. I mean, and they casually, I mean, I thought it was great. Mike Breen made the comment on the broadcast last night, but you know, he kind of downplays the fact that, there's no risk of re-injury, and then he sort of made fun of himself for saying, 'cause he's like, basically this guy's playing with a broken bone, Jason. So you have him out there playing. Durant's trying to play with, it looks like he may have had a partially torn calf muscle. There may have been something with his Achilles. We're not sure. He was
Well, now
obviously
there
not
is something
100%.
with his Achilles. No,
Right.
no, no.
But I mean, we don't know what it was beforehand, but there was something wrong. He decides to play anyway. Klay Thompson only misses a single game. I mean, if you look at this, it's just amazing to watch these teams. I mean, obviously Iguodala we know is playing through injuries. Cousins is obviously not 100% after rehab from both an Achilles tear and a quadriceps injury. So, I mean, it's amazing to watch the walking wounded for the Warriors, and they're just, again, it's so cliche, but that sense of the heart of a champion. I mean, I've thought that was a really interesting piece of this, and I think it's going to define the next two games very well, Jason, because I just don't know if the Warriors have the depth to to stay with the Raptors in these last two games. I mean, when does it become too much? I mean, is Kerr going to have to play Curry and Thompson 45 minutes in these last two games? I mean, I don't see how else they can win.
No, that's what it's looking like. I mean, Quinn Cook, as much as he's improved, should not have been on the floor during the final stretch. I mean, Sean Livingston has not looked great in this series. You got Jerebko and McKinney, those guys playing very sporadic minutes. Andrew Bogut, I mean, hasn't been good. DeMarcus Cousins, though, I think is the true X factor because we talked about him being a net negative in this series. And you are right to an extent because DeMarcus Cousins is averaging 12 and a half points and 8 rebounds in the Warriors' 2 wins and only 4.3 points and 2.3 rebounds in their 3 losses. So that's a really big split, both scoring and rebounding. They definitely need more from him. You need Iguodala to make a lot of those threes that he's been missing because Iguodala's been cold, and I know he's playing hurt. You need more out of Draymond Green. Definitely on the offensive end. He's been passing the ball, but he looks a little too hesitant on offense. He needs to shoot more. I never thought I'd say that. The only player in this series that I cannot critique is Steph for the Warriors because Curry has been there. He put the team on his back. He even had time to go back to the locker room with Kevin Durant just to kind of check on him and then came back in and checked in and played the whole rest of the first half. So Curry's been great. Thompson has been the next best player. Obviously the injury, we can't put him in the top of the list, but other than that, you don't know what you're going to get on a given night for the rest of these Warriors players. Green, Cousins, Iggy, Bogut, Quinn Cook, Livingston. They all need to step up and contribute into game 6 in a big, big way.
And I'll tell you something, Jason. Maybe this is my kind of my heat check. But I really feel like if the Warriors are going to win this series, Kerr has got to shorten his rotation. And I think
he's got to pull a Nick Nurse. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, hot take here, I don't think Sean Livingston can play anymore in this series. He has been terrible. He has been absolutely terrible in the series. He's not playable against the Toronto guards. He can't guard anyone on Toronto. And his inability to shoot means they're basically playing 4-on-5 with him out here. I mean, the Raptors ignore him, Jason. I mean, sometimes he's standing in the dunker spot, and he just doesn't have the bounce to finish those plays anymore. And so I'm not sure he can play in this series. And ultimately, if you're going to play him, you almost might as well play a guy like McKinney. But to me, I sort of think they may need to shorten their rotation to 7 guys. And those guys are, to me, Jason, you have Curry, Thompson, Iguodala, Green, Cousins, and I think the last 2 are Bogut and Cook. And I think you play Bogut 10, 15 minutes a game. You use those fouls that he's got. You try to pair that with some of the Gasol minutes as much as you can. You try to get Bogut out there with Gasol, and then let Cousins just run over Ibaka, because when they don't have Gasol out there, I mean, I've been a little disappointed, and he finally did it in Game 5, but Cousins needs to play down low, and he needs to use that size to draw a double team. And they need to be able to play through him in the post. And then the other guy to me, Jason, I think Kerr just has to play Cook. I understand that Cook is not a great defensive player, but they have to put another shooter on the floor. Draymond Green, I mean, I would love for Draymond Green to suddenly become a shooter and decide that he'll take these shots, but he is turning down wide open looks left and right. And I think when Cousins isn't on the floor, they need to have Cook in there. And so I think they sort of have to start with Cousins out there. And when they take Cousins off, they have to put Cook in. And I know that sounds weird because obviously they play different positions, but I think they kind of need to get Cook on the floor whenever Cousins isn't in there because when they have multiple non-shooters, you watch the Raptors, they're so smart defensively, Jason. I mean, let's give the Raptors credit. I mean, I think some people were surprised they got here. In these finals, they are playing like the best team in the league. I mean, that's how well they're playing defensively. They are on a line, and when the Warriors put out two non-shooters, they pack the paint and Jason do not let open looks materialize for the Splash Brothers, and that's really been the series, Jason.
All right. I'm going to put this gently because I don't want to upset you. But with a healthy Kevin Durant, had he not had the calf injury to begin with, this series is over in 5. The Warriors win. Okay, the Raptors, I'm not going to discredit how well they've played, but the Raptors are at peak performance. They cannot get any better. That's how good the Warriors are because when Steph and Clay are both on and hitting shots, the series is dead even. I think the Clay injury really shifted the balance in Toronto's favor. I don't think the Warriors would have lost both games at home, 3 and 4, if they were healthy, if Clay was healthy. So the series is dead even, but a healthy Durant, it's over. So the Raptors are at their peak. Now we have to see if they can finish it off with the Warriors playing, with a heavy, heavy emotional chip on the shoulder, and it's going to be pretty interesting.
And I just saw a report here, Jason. They are actually expecting Kevon Looney to play Game 6.
That's unbelievable.
They had said he was going to likely miss the rest of the series yesterday, Monday night. But if he plays, I take back what I said. I think you can put him in there instead of Bogut. But to me, the biggest thing here, Jason, is that Kerr has to know who he can play. The biggest credit I have to give to Nick Nurse is he has found his guys. And he's playing his guys, and he is not playing anyone who doesn't contribute. I mean, there's just a couple Norman Powell minutes in there where sometimes Powell looks like a guy who should be playing on a finals team, and sometimes it looks like they pull the guy off the street. He's just a very streaky player. But all the rest of the guys in the rotation that Nurse is playing, they just look like they belong. And that's the difference for the Warriors, Jason. I mean, I think when you really boil this down, first of all, the Raptors probably should have won every game in this series. They have outplayed the Warriors, I would say, every single game of this series. And the reason why the Warriors have won a couple games is the absolute transcendent play of Steph Curry, as you mentioned, who is going to get his Finals MVP if the Warriors do pull off this comeback. I mean, that's pretty much a lock at this point. I don't think anything could happen. If the Warriors win, he's winning the Finals MVP. Likewise, if the Raptors win, it's going to be Kawhi. But Kerr has got to step up here. He played his guys 40-some-odd minutes against the Rockets. He took them seriously. With 2 games left, Jason, there's nothing to rest these guys for. It's time to shorten the rotation. There can't be any more Jordan Bell sightings. He absolutely blew a box out that led to a wide-open layup. It can't happen. It's the finals. You have to have your 7 guys. You got to play them. And it's time for Kerr to me. I mean, to me, Jason, that's what the series is going to hinge on. Can Kerr shorten that rotation, get those guys in, and then can Curry and Thompson play like the players they are? If they can be 2 of the top 3 players in the series, I think the Warriors have a chance. If not, Jason, I think it might be done for the Warriors.
Okay. I've waited long enough. I'm getting into my heat check of the week because it's getting hot in here, baby. All right, so you and I are having a pretty healthy debate right now. And it's centered around, do the Warriors have what it takes to upset the Raptors given all the circumstances? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the pros as part of my heat check, and then I want you to counter with the cons. Now, if you're paying attention at home, this is on page 2, line 78 of the Baseline Jumpers show notes. But this is why my heat check starts now. This series is going 7. With everything that's gone down, the Clay injury, the Durant injury, all the hype surrounding that, Kawhi, Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? How well he's playing? It's all going to come down to this. Here are my pros as to why I think this is going to go 7. I mentioned the emotional chip on the shoulders of the Warrior players, mostly Curry, Thompson, and Green, the 3 All-Stars, okay? But the Warriors have a championship pedigree, Ben, and they showed that off last night. Okay, they were down 103 to 97. They hit 3 threes over the last 3 minutes of the game. Calmly, Clay did not even flinch when he hit those shots. Got the Warriors back in the game, got them over the hump, extended the series. Then you have the side thing, and I can't think of another adjective, so I'm going to say side thing, is that they're playing their last ever game at Oracle Arena. That arena is going to be rocking on Thursday night. Mm-hmm. You got the fans that have been loyal to that area, to that neighborhood for years, for decades. That all comes to an end. So it's very fitting that the Warriors get one last game there. Okay, now without Kevin Durant, I know the Warriors are not as good, but still they have 5 players on their roster who have been All-Stars. Curry, Thompson, Green, Cousins, Iguodala. So they have the pieces. You can argue that after the emotional win in Game 5, Ben, they have the momentum. And also, my last part of my heat check, if they pull this off, this will cap off their 5-year dynastic run in the most poetic and special way, and they will further that label, that stigma, as the greatest team of all time. So the series is going 7, in my opinion. The Warriors have too much to lose, and they will have what it takes to at least force a Game 7. Because you and I both picked Warriors in 6. We were both wrong. Obviously, we didn't see the injury to Durant coming. But I think this is going 7. Now, I'll give you a minute to cool off, but I want you to hit me with some cons. Or if you agree with me, we'll just throw the cons out the window.
No, I mean, I think my main concern, as I said, I think the 2 things are the issue of depth. I just think when you don't see Curry or Thompson on the floor, it's noticeable. I mean, the Raptors, when one of those guys is off the floor, the defense is like, the Raptors defense look like hyenas. They're just picking at the carcass of the Warriors. There's just not enough shooting on the floor. And it's really noticeable. And then, as I mentioned, I think the other piece of that has been that I really haven't felt like Kerr knows who he trusts yet, Jason. And I don't know if that's just my read, and maybe I'm dead wrong about this. But at the end of the day, I think as a coach, you sort of have to know who you trust. And I just haven't gotten that feeling from Kerr. And that's what's really, it's giving me pause. Because at no point in this series have I felt like Kerr has decided, here's my rotation. And maybe, Jason, I'm willing to concede the point that maybe he had been expecting Durant to come back. And he was just waiting. But I think we're going to have to see it in Game 6. I mean, to me, that's how this series goes back to Game 7 in Toronto. Is if Kerr shortens that rotation and then Curry and Thompson play like superstars. And again, if they don't do that, Jason, I just think it's going to be tough. I mean, the Raptors are a really, really good basketball team. I think people are almost taking away too much from them given these injuries because I think the Raptors might be the best team that this Warriors team has faced. And I include the Cavaliers. I mean, I think at this point, Kawhi is as good as LeBron has been, and there's no one who's at Kyrie's level, maybe even no one at Kevin Love's level, but all the rest of those guys are really good, and they can play. This is the biggest thing to me. They can play both ends of the floor, Jason. When you watch them on defense, there's just no weak links. You would think Fred VanVleet is that guy, but he has played like a man possessed in this series on his defensive Curry. All of them are locked in defensively. And I don't remember in recent memory a better defensive performance in the finals. I mean, this is hearkening back to those like Spurs-Pistons finals where the rotations are so crisp on the Raptor side. I mean, I think you have to credit the Warriors for the shots they're making, but the Toronto defense has been absolutely phenomenal. And I think that's going to make it challenging. So that's my counterpoint to this going 7.
Can I also counter my heat check? Is that allowed, or am I just...
I'll allow it.
Well, I just want to say one thing that the Raptors have going for them. So for the first 4 games of the series, there was speculation. Will Durant play? Will Steve Kerr pull a Brett Brown and say, hey, he's a game-time decision, and then just put him in the lineup? Now they know he's out. So right now, the Raptors could be flying to Oakland,